Released on June 23, 2020, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated took the speedrunning community by storm, leading to hundreds of hosted runs within weeks of release, quickly becoming one of the most actively run games on speedrun.com. However, if you take a look at the boards now, these hundreds of runs have been reduced to just a small dozen. What caused such a huge initial influx of runners? What caused their runs to be wiped? From the moment the game came out, it was met with a lot of interest from those within the original Battle for Bikini Bottom community. As a result, launch day saw many new exploits and tricks found, with the biggest sequence break, Taxi Glitch, being found just a few hours in. On PC, by pressing the confirm button on a controller and a keyboard at the exact same time while on the menu screen, you'd be able to travel to previously locked areas before you would normally be able to, allowing for players to immediately warp to the final area of the game, meaning the game could be finished in under 5 minutes. However, as the game ran at 60 or even 144 frames per second, which I'll get into later, both of the buttons would have to be pressed on the exact same frame, meaning you had anywhere from 1/60th to 1/144th of a second to do so. Reinforced by the fact that the final area also had a leftover developer trigger that enabled both of Spongebob's powers to be unlocked, two spatulas, as it was known to be called, became the most competitive and optimized category within the Rehydrated community, dropping from over 5 minutes in game time to a 2:19 within the first day. However, due to the influx of runs, it's hard to pinpoint just who held the record at which point in time, due to every runner improving with each new run that they'd submit. This discovery was actually one of the worst things to happen within the first few days of the game, as the mods for Rehydrated didn't want to open up the leaderboards until they were able to make more definitive rules to make it fair for everyone, but this influx of runs prevented that from happening. This led to the first of two major rule changes, capped runs. As it turned out, Rehydrated ran on a framerate based physics engine, meaning that the higher the FPS was, the higher you'd be able to go. This mainly only affected two types of tricks, sponge warping, which required for the user to slam right as they landed in goo, and vertical bowl boosts, in which the user would bowl into a slope to gain massive height. Collectively saving multiple minutes, only players who were able to run the game at the uncapped frame rate of 144 were able to utilize these tricks, which created an unfair playing field. At first just enforcing the frame rate to be displayed, this later evolved into a variable being displayed besides the run, labeling it as either uncapped or capped, before finally capping all runs at 60 FPS, just 2 weeks after the game's release. This led to some runners being upset over not being able to play at 144, causing them to leave the speedrunning scene for the game, with one citing, adding a 60 FPS and 144 FPS category would bring in more people. There are certain tricks that can't be performed with lower FPS, which creates less opportunities to find awesome tricks, since the frame rate heavily affects the physics. These tricks in particular included completing the level Goo Lagoon backwards, as well as vertical bowl boosts becoming worse. Many also thought that the uncapped world record would not be beaten for a while, as the world record in the 77 spatula category, which prohibited Taxi Glitch, had been lowered from a 4-hour run on the first day by ChristoFast22 to a 56:36 by Toothy the day of the cap rule being put into place. However, mere hours after the rule was instituted, speedrunner Doka beat the record by 15 seconds, this time on 60 FPS. At this point, all of the PC leaderboards were wiped, allowing for a blank slate with all 60 FPS runs being allowed for resubmission. Everyone began to settle down. Many new optimizations were found that led to the world record decreasing more and more, with a 48 being achieved on the 27th of July, just 3 weeks after the frame rate cap was put into place. PC runners, we're trying to gather info about how consistent window click lag is. Please watch this video to learn how to set up a good way to perform it, and let us know if you have any issues. Lag. Banned upon release for all PC runners, lag allowed for framerate manipulation in one of three ways: full screen toggle with F11, spamming print screen, and finally window manipulation, with only the latter being brought back into discussion later on. Deemed to be inconsistent across different PCs, meaning that it brought an unfair advantage, lagging the game would manipulate the game engine into lowering the frame rate to 0 or near 0, causing a massive jump in frames once the lag stops, allowing for wacky physics to take effect. With window dragging, by pressing left or right click on the window bar of the game, the frame rate would drop to 0 until released. Found to be consistent across all PCs, this method was implemented through one of two ways: enabling mouse keys which transformed the number pad into a left or right click, or by rebinding several controller buttons to be able to do so. Tested by multiple runners, lag via window drag was implemented into the rule set on July 30th, angering many and becoming the second controversial rule change within the community. Many disliked the change, as it was deemed not fun and required a controller to use, which not everyone wanted to do or could afford to do so. However, lag did save multiple minutes through one of four ways: lag bouncing, lag bashing, lag warping, the most beneficial and used lag strat, and finally lag clipping, a recent discovery that saved a minute in one area alone. Despite backlash, it was argued that since the method was consistent, lag was here to stay, and stay it did, as it replaced the non-lag categories as the main board runs, with the non-lag runs being placed onto the extension board instead. Many left, but those who stayed teamed up with those who ran on consoles, as they have been working with lag since day one, and were able to make some quick optimizations, leading to a strong back and forth competition between players I'm Jay, DrEvilsin, Acrid, and Chino for world record in 77 spat, finally lowering the record to a 43.55. At this point, no new world records have been made in the category. Last week, the boards were once again revised to include no lag on the main boards, as well as to introduce individual level speedruns, allowing for small runs to make their debuts instead of hour-long runs. On Thanksgiving, I even had the opportunity to showcase a full-length commentated run of 77 spat at the Global Speedrun Association's Stack Up the Speed charity event. Looking at the boards now, what was once hundreds of runners in one of the most actively run games has been cut in half, with now only 11 active runners posting speedruns of the game. At this point, has the game reached its limit, or is there still more to find? In 2-spat, for instance, the current world record stands at a 1:34.960, but it's theorized that a new route could save over 10 more seconds in an already well-optimized route. If you want to try out any of the categories that the game has to offer, or even just learn more about the strategies, be sure to join the Battle for Bikini Bottom Discord server, the link to which is in the description. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and maybe even check out my Twitch, where I stream speedruns every so often. Thanks for watching!